Hi guys, welcome back to the Fata Morgana playthrough. Now today's going to be a really interesting day because what we saw last time was kind of what this chapter has been really leading up to. We have seen Morgana and how she has been saved by Michelle, and also how everything has been proven to be really quite fruitless in the end, just because of the fact that even though Morgana was saved, and obviously she died happily, she still died, and Michelle couldn't make it on time no matter what happened. And I suppose there was that indication when Michelle was shown the past of Morgana. If you ask me, there was just always that indication that even if Morgana had continued to live, Michelle would not be able to change her past just because of how... change her future just because of how... I suppose how damaged she has been as a result of everything that has happened to her. But, yeah, what happened was, after everything, Jacopo and also the swordsman and Mel, they went out of the door and, they were going to carry Morgana to where she should, where she should deservedly be buried, in a peaceful, nice place, not surrounded by trauma, obviously. Yeah, but then the sky and the scenery became really bloody. And I think what has happened is people have finally used this as an opportunity to revolt against the Lord, and that has resulted in conflict. And maybe it kind of will prove that the I suppose the turmoil of the city and it totally declining and maybe even everybody dying is completely inevitable. I don't know. I mean, obviously Morgana won't be the blame, but there is still, if you ask me, a chance that everything is inevitable. You've changed the past, but you've also changed the future. Have you changed it for the good or bad? That's the question. Oh my god, so yeah. Yeah, here we are. This is what I was just talking about. This. Oh my god, this is going to be so exciting. Oh, we've got this theme as well. Good music to accompany it. It looks very bloody. It looks awful. It just looks like everything you would not want to see, to be honest. What happened to Gazelle, by the way? I really do wonder. Oh god, no. Yeah, of course. Oh my god, what the fuck is going to happen? Is this Morgana? Oh my god, is everybody dead? What? I'm sorry, what? Come again? What? It's as if nothing has happened. Okay, think about every single possibility that this could have been, and then think about this. Think about how this differs to everything you have just initially thought. If you're like me, you will know how that feels. Holy shit. I did not expect this at all. Jacopo out of everybody, yeah. I know! That's the weirdest thing. Yeah. I just don't really understand what's happened. God, Michelle was just so scared. He's probably really, really just in disbelief. I don't blame him, though. I mean, this is just everything that you have known and everything you have worked your fucking arse off for. Just envision that, and then just envision the opposite. This is the opposite. Oh. What is it? Really? Why? So it's as if your world and the world in which you changed Morgana and made her die happily was just a dream? Was it just a reality fabricated for yourself? It is interesting, Morgana's, well, Michelle's proof that Morgana is the white-haired girl. I hate using the word proof now because, yeah, if you guys do A-level maths, you'll see what I mean. It just always reminds me of numerical proofs, whereas obviously this is not numerical proof. Yes, I suppose that's like a reflection of reality, is that what he's saying? Yeah, okay, yeah. I don't remember this. I'm surprised. I mean, yeah, that is reasonable, but at the same time, it's just really surprised that a genuine replica of the past has happened. So obviously, when he goes into... No, but the only thing is I don't really understand why he has been given a glimpse of what the past was actually like, and a glimpse of the fact that his past, well, what he thought he did in the past was totally useless. I mean, you've got to really think about maybe someone else intervening if this is happening. Yeah, that does make sense. And I suppose that kind of also proves that the world in which Morgana could summon the darkness from Michelle, that world as well was not part of the real world. That's really interesting to think about, the fact that there are so many things that you kind of never really think about, the fact that they're clues, but when they're told to you that they are clues, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, isn't that brutal? So I really do wonder if he's going to be able to talk to Morgana and just ask what the true nature of everything is. God, look how bloodstained and how much of a wreck everything looks here. It's an amazingly done background. It is really unusual how you have lots of these parts that resemble actual structures, and then you just have these textures that just resemble nothing. It's just really weird how they're kind of combined. I don't know, I mean, this, for example, just looks like a random section of colour, really. Doesn't look like it resembles anything reminiscent of the real world, which obviously everything else does. I know, but that's so weird. But the only thing is, I mean, if all of this is an illusion, then what about Gazelle? Was she an illusion as well? I just really wonder what happened. Why did Gazelle have to go? Well, I mean, Gazelle went, I think, because she was talking Morgana into staying alive, really. So I suppose it does kind of make sense that when the illusion is realised, Gazelle also goes. But if Gazelle also goes, where is she? Yeah. The only thing is, I don't really understand if Michel is in the real world here and he has been transported, then how is he existing? That's the thing that's the most weird. What is his true nature? Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you did everything you possibly could. I mean, you did all of this with the assumption that you were in the real world. Obviously, you couldn't have possibly known that reality differed, which is so weird. Nothing. It's just totally meaningless. Unless maybe there is something that we don't know. Maybe about Morgana. Because let's be honest, Morgana was overseeing our quest from day one. And she was intervening, I think, evident in just how many times she let us experience the events from her perspective, just to kind of highlight how impossible it would be to change her, I think. I don't blame him. But the only thing is, I mean, this is sometime in the future. What happened in the future to cause all of this really, really bad conflict? Wait, hang on a second. I don't really understand. Why does he see the Lord? No, this is weird. I love this soundtrack, by the way. Can I just mention it's really good? I really do wonder. They go unanswered. Serious? Wow. I'm really surprised. Yeah. Was Gazelle even there? I suppose he himself was able to learn more about Morgana, maybe? Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I suppose it's good to have the knowledge, but ultimately it is just knowledge. What is it actually going to achieve knowing? I suppose obviously you'll be able to view Morgana and her story in a whole different light, but what is that actually going to do? What does that mean? Yeah. I really do wonder. Oh yeah. I suppose you would definitely have a complete change in everything if that was the case, but is that going to happen? Yeah. It would be really interesting to see how this is going to affect the Morgana in the present, and if she is going to change. There is a big if in all of this. Fair enough. My god, I really do wonder what's going to be beyond this light. Or is it just going to be blinding white light? Yes, it is. Oh my god, I wonder who this is. Is this Gazelle or Morgana? So that's interesting to think about the fact that this is kind of like your game over stage, really, because you've just done everything and all of your efforts, no matter how hard you've tried, they've just all been for nothing. But then you realise that your efforts are for something. And you could either totally be consumed by despair, or you could try to change things for the future. And I suppose now what Michelle's doing is trying to create a future for these people and to make it so that the mansion stops being cursed by kind of being like a prison for these people's souls, I suppose. It's really weird the supernatural turn the story has had. If I'm going to be honest, I kind of wish we had some explanation as to why is Morgana above all of these people in terms of their souls in death. I really do wonder why. But I suppose that shows the power of emotion. And it shows the power of hatred, if anything. I suppose now you have the illusionary present, and that's just totally fading away. And then it is interesting. This is kind of a world that is fully how you perceive it, and it does kind of make sense that the world of the dead would make no logical human sense. I mean, you can definitely see that when you think about stuff like this. He will do anything for Morgana. He really, really will. And I fucking hope he makes it. I really do. And I just wonder what's happening with Gazelle. I really do. Yeah. Imagine if this is Morgana. The fuck? Okay, that was the last thing I was expecting. Imagine if this is Morgana. Look at this. Oh, that's really weird. And exactly the same eyes as well, and hair colour. Obviously in this light it looks more black, and it looks kind of like a really, really magnificent green colour. What? Who the hell is the white-haired girl? We meet at last. Yeah, where is he? That is a really good question. Maybe this is the mansion now. There's a sword that's being held by the white-haired girl, and the white-haired girl was making some very bad decisions. That's gotta hurt. Holding metal as sharp as that on your hand, bare-skinned. Yeah. You could hold a sword any other way. Yep. I think this story is just so ridiculous that now, if they don't interact with physical language, I suppose, and audible conversation, it's just not even something that's alarming. Oh, he can't speak. So what I find really unusual is the fact that she is saying that about the voice. Sorry, not about the voice. Sorry, I don't know why I said that, but about what she has said in the fact that this has made her and Michelle's uncovering of the events that have long since been forgotten about. The uncovering of that truth has totally made her be able to reconnect with herself and rediscover herself. Yeah, everything that she had forgotten. So that's why there is a blade. Isn't it interesting to think about the fact that if this is Morgana, then it's interesting that this is how Michelle was described. But I mean, it does kind of make sense when you think about the fact that Michelle has undergone so many trials and so many instances where he could be totally tempted to fall victim to the, well, just to cursing people and taking out his anger on other people. That's really interesting. I just really do wonder if this is Morgana. And it's surprising that you can make that connection. I never really thought you would be able to. I just find it interesting how similar she looks. And I mean, if you judge by visual appearance, I wouldn't be surprised. She does look like she maybe could be 17 or 18. Like Morgana was. No, sorry, 17 when she died, not 18. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to cause it. I mean, if anything, this just feels like total opposition to what he was originally intending. I see what he's saying now. Yeah, fair enough. Why? That's weird. That is actually really interesting that you can think that without the white-haired girl existing, none of the tragedies would have happened. I really like that connection, because that is true. But at the same time, surely it's the fault of the people. Well, I mean, she's trying to argue that the people wouldn't have acted like they did if it wasn't her who existed. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's her fault. It means it's the fault of the people who are so weak in the heart that they can't really change. Well, they can become a killer if the white-haired girl was there. I don't know if this is true. I don't actually agree with that because of the fact that he lost his memory. It's weird that that is said though, because I mean, if anything, ironically, the white-haired girl was one of the people that suffered the most in all of the stories. I mean, chapter 1, she was chased out. Chapter 2, she was literally killed, probably quite painfully as well. Chapter 3, well, she died a death that nobody should ever have to die. Chapter 3 definitely had the most painful death out of all of them. You didn't know. I mean, how fair is that? Saying that without somebody's existence, people wouldn't have acted badly. I mean, if she didn't do anything bad, then that's a really harsh remark. Yeah, exactly, yeah. She was not a bad person, no. Yeah. Please answer that. Because I am interested. And isn't it funny to think about the fact that Michelle and the white-haired girl, this is something that I should have said instantly, but I forgot. They're not the same person, and it's interesting that Michelle has totally proved this theory. That's interesting. Yeah, that does kind of make sense, if anything. I mean, let's be honest, she is somebody... It's interesting. So, Morgana was probably becoming absolutely insane, and she was losing her mind, and her mind was just deteriorating so much that it couldn't cope by itself. So, hence the white-haired girl was born. But what's interesting about this, if you ask me, is the fact that it's kind of taking, I don't know, things you'd associate with, like, I don't know, DID and multiple personality disorder, stuff like that. Stuff that you'd usually think about when thinking about stuff like that. It's taking it and it's kind of making the product of that mental illness into something, I don't want to say real because this isn't real, but something that actually has form in the world of the dead. That's really cool how they've done it. Yeah, but that's interesting. That does kind of make sense. I thought that was Gazelle maybe, and I thought that could have explained Gazelle's disappearance, but no. But what happened to Gazelle? Seriously, what did happen? It's interesting to think about the fact that Morgana doesn't really realise that she is the white-haired girl at all. And it's surprising. So I suppose Michelle thought Morgana was the white-haired girl for a completely different reason to why she was. But it was a total coincidence. I like it. There was more to the story, apparently. Okay. Totally reasonable. Oh, yeah, I agree. That's interesting, yeah. That is interesting, I like that. That does kind of make sense though. I mean, it must be awful just wanting to hate people so badly, and obviously any normal person would. But the only thing is you don't feel like you can hate them, and you don't feel you have the right to, just simply because of the fact that it's been in your upbringing. It's kind of been what you have always forced yourself to believe, and what you have been brainwashed into believing as well. Let's be honest here. I mean, she did not voluntarily believe in all of that stuff. She was forced to believe it. And why was she forced? So that her mum could make profit out of her. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous just how it happened. But this has totally torn her apart. It's horrible. It really is. And it just shows how somebody just tries their best. It just shows how somebody responds in the most awful conditions, really. And it is really weird to think about the fact that ultimately Fata Morgana is a really quite religious story, and it just really feels like a lot of these religious-based concepts in the world of the dead, they are quite true, and it just feels like it just really feels inspired from concepts that have been made by it. Like, for example, all of this talk about souls. I think that's a really good thing to mention. Isn't it interesting to think about the fact that this really symbolically makes sense, because Morgana is just somebody who has been totally ruled by her hatred, and she has done everything to separate this part of herself, so much so that this part of herself is reduced and it has totally destroyed itself. And it's just been reduced to dust. Yeah. I can't help but think about kind of like star life cycles. when it kind of goes from this, like, you have a nebula and then a protostar and then fucking hell, fusion happens and main sequence star. And you can go from a cloud of dust to, I don't know, a star like the sun. After hundreds of millions of years, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I'd assume... Yeah, fair enough. I was thinking more on the lines of, like, security, stability, just good quality of life. But obviously, you can't have a good quality of life if you don't have the ability to live. Fair enough. Yeah, because obviously the thing is about a soul, it's really not something we know much about, so I suppose it's just kind of what we think of it in this story is kind of up to how the writer interprets it, really. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, she was never meant to exist, though. I mean, firstly, she wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for Michelle, but secondly, she shouldn't have existed in the first place, because the fact that she exists is kind of like a representation of the fact that Morgana's life has been so unjust and cruel. There shouldn't be. There really, really shouldn't be. Yeah. So I suppose Morgana wants to curse everybody, but at the same time the white-haired girl wants to live. So I suppose the white-haired girl will always live always live while being affected by the curse that Morgana puts on. But it's interesting because the white-haired girl has never done anything to Morgana, of course not. And if anything, in that last part when she was totally just losing sight of everything, it was really interesting just seeing those lines that really felt like things Gazelle would say being said. Part of her conscience just realising what this is and just trying to totally reassure her to make her keep on going and to view the most positive outlooks of her situation that she could. Yeah, and I suppose totally exterminating you. Are you really suggesting that? I suppose when it says created the mansion, I think that's a bit vague. I think kind of like integrating it in, not integrating it, kind of getting it, no, integrating is a good word, integrating it into the world of the dead. Not, I don't mean like with respect to DX or something like that. I mean making it accustomed to the world of the dead. I'm sorry, but if we're talking about the logic of the universe and... No, I don't know. I just don't really think bringing science and maths into this is the best... best idea. Because this is the world of the dead. It doesn't follow human logic. So there's no point. It has no use. That's really interesting to think about the fact that the mansion and it being able to transcend time is just because of the fact that it's kind of like a prison for the white-haired girl's soul, if anything. And it is interesting that she ends up there every single time in her life. And ironically, if Michelle goes in that ending where we saw the white-haired girl and obviously Michelle die, the white-haired girl was nowhere near the mansion, which is really surprising. In that ending, we rejected Gazelle. So I suppose maybe it was the case that the white-haired girl was inevitably going to go to the mansion. I don't know. Fair enough. That does make more sense now, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. So you live, but you live as a result of your other side and who inevitably has made a part of you. Yeah, fair enough. And isn't it awful to think about the fact that in every single time there's an indication that hatred is really posed onto the white-haired girl, because she has very unfortunate circumstances in each chapter. Yeah, that is a totally reasonable question. And it's so unfair and so cruel that she isn't able to live. And I mean, why is she not able to live? But the answer is within her origins. It's because of who she was that she isn't able to continue living. And I think especially for somebody like Michelle, whose life was ruined because of who he was, maybe that kind of has a bigger impact. You know, what is so wrong with wanting to live? That is a very good question. God, isn't it horrible to think about the fact that she just thinks of herself as a defect? Yeah. I just find it really interesting to think about the fact that yeah, it's just really quite funny to think about the fact that you have all of these people that the soul can make up, and then you have kind of like the ultimate controller of said soul, who is kind of omniscient. And if anything, if you want to say this, you probably could. This soul is kind of like this person, the god of all of the white-haired girls, just because that is, the soul is kind of what causes the entire changes of fate for the white-haired girls. It's really weird. It's just such an unusual concept. I mean, if reincarnation did really exist, would there be just one soul that's kind of overseeing each kind of incarnation of yourself? I never really thought about that. I like it. Yeah, this is cruel. It really is. Shit. An act of villainy. I suppose she was just born with a selfish desire to live, but I'm sorry, who would not want to live? And is it fair to, even if the life of this one person has caused so much misery? Firstly, was it her fault? No. But secondly, how can you not wish somebody to live? Yeah. Just like she is something that should have never been there in the first place. Yeah, fair enough. But the only thing is, I mean, it's interesting, this kind of concept of life after death. What happens if there is no soul? I mean, this person has a conscience, they have a brain, they have... Well, do they have a brain, actually? Does anybody have a brain? I mean, they're dead. But, they have a conscience and they have some sort of way of communicating and obviously making thoughts and reacting to what other people say. And, yeah, it's just a weird question. What happens if a soul doesn't exist? Sure, they would have ceased to exist, but then what will happen to the white-haired girl's consciousness? Sorry, I meant conscience. But yeah, you get what I'm saying, I hope. Yeah. What will happen to you? Will you just go back to experiencing Morgana's perspective or something? I really do wonder. Oh my god, is this a timed choice? No, it doesn't look like it. There's no other choice. Fair enough. I mean, this is partly, ironically, part of killing Morgana, in a way. Killing the person that he has done everything to protect and to, in general, try and prevent the tragedy of. It is interesting that the white-haired girl her soul was never really able to realise just what it truly was until... Wait, no. No, actually, let me just... Yeah, so I suppose she formed without actually realising everything she had forgotten, and I suppose she learnt the truth and then she came here. So the amount of time that has passed since she has learned the truth probably isn't that much. Fair enough. I just find it really interesting to think about the fact that this part of Morgana's soul is kind of the witch, the thing that never should have existed. And if anything, what I find really unusual is just the fact that she is considered to be so evil. I suppose Morgana was the person who was the victim, but she was kind of the perpetrator because of the fact that she caused all of the cursed souls to have lives that ended in tragedy. It's so unusual that you'd link those two things together. I mean, who else would it be? What does that mean? Sats, I've never heard of that before. Oh, right. So, yeah, made or used as a substitute, typically an inferior one for something else. That does kind of make sense. So cruel that she has to view her life like this. And it's interesting to think about the fact that Morgana really is split into two. So weird. And there is a question about which form Morgana's soul is going to take once this happens, and you really do wonder just which form it is going to take. I like that. So even though Michelle's efforts had not changed the past and everything was an illusion, I mean, my God, if you told that to me 2 days ago, I think I would spill my drink of water. When I drank it, I just spit it out in shock. Who wouldn't? Yeah, now I see the connection. I always thought it was a bit coincidental they looked really similar. How the fuck did you have no mind and you were literally made out of particulates, and yet you had a consciousness and you had emotions? That's really weird. I mean, yeah, it's the world of the dead, like I keep saying, but that's really odd. Fair enough. Fair enough, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally reasonable. Yeah. But the only thing is, obviously, release would have been the worst thing to happen. I mean, after all, you firstly wouldn't be here if you had release, but secondly, you would never be able to support Gazelle, who needed it the most. So isn't it interesting just the differing meanings that the Whitehead girl and Michelle have? And yeah, Michelle just constantly thinking that he is the Whitehead girl only until recently. And I mean, it's totally reasonable that happened, because not even the Whitehead girl knew that who she was. Like, her soul rather than her actual self. You didn't go into the temptation of cursing, no matter how much you were provoked and no matter how awful your life became even. You didn't take it out on other people though, and you only let yourself suffer. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I forgot about the name being exactly the same. And isn't it interesting that he thinks that? But let's be honest, I mean, I suppose it is a problem that he doesn't really have any self-awareness of just how brilliant he is. But at the same time, I mean, if he thinks this, he's not going to be drowning in the ego and all of those emotions that people want to really, really think when people admire them. Yeah, totally, and I'm glad she's aware of that. Fair. And I suppose what's really quite significant, when Michelle was alive as well, you were subject to the worst conditions, and then Gazelle comes and you can totally change your life around. when you realise who she is and you fully understand her. And it is interesting to think about the fact that before, his treatment to Gazelle was kind of like a result of how he has been treated in his life, and just the lack of ability to trust anybody, and just the lack of ability to think clearly about your situation as well. Like, for example, when he totally believed his mother and what she said about Gazelle. And it's interesting how that changes when he properly understands her. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, and it's interesting that this is the only choice. We just will not. There is no other option. It's just a no. Fair. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm just finding it really quite hard to believe that the fourth door was Morgana's creation. The story of the fourth door, I thought, was kind of how fragmented Gazelle's memory was. Why is it Morgana's creation? Well, to be fair, it does actually answer a question, because Gazelle has been living for hundreds of years, and yet at the same time she could just perfectly recount the events in a way similar to how they actually happened in Michelle's version of the story that his soul just instinctively remembered. So that does kind of make a little bit more sense. I'm just a bit surprised. Wait, hang on a second. No, I know what it is. It's because... no, actually, I don't know. Maybe Morgana could have convinced Gazelle that this was the case. Yeah, that's because he's kind. And obviously because of how much she has said that she wants to live, and how much she respects him as well. I mean, that must make it even more difficult. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I just find it really quite funny to think about the fact that there is a question of what happens after this. You never know. You really don't. Oh, yeah, fair enough. But this is basically assisted suicide, surely? But, I mean, I suppose you aren't delivering it with your own physical actions. But you are still convincing somebody who never would have killed you normally to kill you. So, yeah, it's surprising that this is allowed. He just wants to do anything he can, especially because he really realises the value of living, I suppose. And I mean, it's just cruel to think about the fact that somebody's existence has created nothing but suffering, even if she is the type of person who has kind of alleviated everything for Morgana. And isn't it ironic, somebody who is nothing but kind and helps these people in so many ways? I mean, to be fair, I suppose in Door 1 she is really, really insecure, and she's only kind to Mel after a lot happens. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the relationship is kind of composed of Mel driving it forwards, really. I mean, obviously she was going to murder Mel at first, but she just couldn't do it. So I suppose her soul would never be pushed to something as bad as murder. But yeah, it's awful. And I really do wonder if there is going to be a way. Yeah, totally. I suppose that kind of makes sense, because you have this person. Well, no. I think it's because of the fact that without her, Morgana can totally separate from her saint identity. That's cruel. That's cruel, but it's understandable as to why she would ask it. Totally reasonable. I mean, is it really fair just to save one half of Morgana? Fair enough. But the only thing is, I mean, technically, you are saving her because she is somebody who is deeply concerned about the fact that her existence is causing harm to everybody and it is resulting in death. So, technically, doing this would make it so that she could have peace, surely? Yeah, there shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be, but there might. If Michelle does not kill her. And why would somebody like Michelle want to ever murder? I mean, Michelle's such a good person. This must be the most challenging task. Yeah, it's just no matter what happens, she will refute your ability to want to refuse, really. Yeah. It's kind of like Jakob's thought. The thought I had there. Is one person really worth it for everybody being saved? It's a difficult question sometimes. Well, is one person really worth it for a really big change? Because obviously Jakob did not save anybody, he just improved the city so that he could have more power. Fair enough, yeah. And if anything, there won't really be a need for the mansion in the world of the dead now, because, well, I suppose, what is actually linking it? Well, no, actually. Yeah, so I suppose if the white-haired girl goes, then what is forcing Morgana to cling to the mansion and her soul to be imprisoned there is something that will be no more. Yeah, true. Holy shit, he is finding this hard to do. Yeah. He will definitely do that. Oh my god. He will never ever forget her. Never. Oh my god, so now we're in the observation tower. How weird. God, that must have been so difficult. But the only thing is I don't really understand. So the imprisonment of Morgana and the mansion has now been lifted. So what is he doing in the mansion? I know. One sacrifice for salvation of everybody else. Yeah, sure, everybody would have been saved, and it totally makes sense that everybody would have been saved because of the fact that their souls will no longer have to repeat this cycle of suffering. But what else does it mean? It means Michelle is going to have a thing called guilt, and then more guilt, and then more guilt, and it's just never ever going to stop. So yeah, sure, everybody will live. Well, I mean, to be fair, they won't even notice it, possibly. They won't notice the imprisonment. Well, actually, no, I don't know. I suppose you have influenced fate so that people who go to the mansion and have awful lives that end there has stopped. Nobody's going to thank you for this, but ultimately you are going to thank yourself for having prevented so many things. Totally. Especially to think about the fact that she is the person that, sure, she should have never ever been in the universe, but at the same time, I mean, is it fair to wish something who wanted to live death? Is it really fair? It's interesting, that question. God. my god. So, oh no, I don't know. So this is the sprite of Morgana right after. There's no skeleton arm on her left arm though. I'll take a break for a sec. Okay, I'm back from my break. Isn't it cruel to think about the fact that whatever was going to be said here was just totally cut off? And you just think about such a genuine, pure-hearted... I mean, let's be honest, this person here is the embodiment of being pure-hearted, being kind, and obviously being a good person. So, yeah, to be told something like this by her, it really must be a compliment. But it's also just so cruel that somebody who lived such a kind life also dies in the most unkind way. Her last words aren't even heard. But obviously that's not Michelle's fault whatsoever, that's just bad coincidence, really. Yeah. Does she not know? Isn't it interesting? I think Morgana was actually allowing this to all happen. I think she, because let's be honest, Morgana has control of nearly everything, so I think it was her genuine curiosity and her just wanting to see what Michelle can do and what she might be able to learn. I think that was the reason why she exited. Made it so that the illusionary world ceased to exist, just because she couldn't bear this shock. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah. It's the truth. Yeah, but of course, yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. I suppose in this case it's kind of the case of you seeing what you want to see and only seeing the things that are convenient for, I suppose, your mind, really. It does, I totally agree. Yeah. Betrayed by one of the only people that showed you what it was, well, betrayed in the most awful and agonising way as well, by one of the only people who shows you why this world may have a kind side to it. yeah? But this is what he did, trying to show you the world. Yeah. The fact that he never ever wanted this to happen. Who would not think that? Yeah. Yeah. If he had simply told Morgana his feelings. Yeah. I can, but that doesn't mean it's Morgana's fault because she wasn't in sound mind. I don't think. This kind of gives the implication that it was Morgana's fault and that she should be to blame, but she should never ever blame herself. She's not in the wrong at all. It must have been hard for him, and obviously the guilt of having to do such a disgusting action just to protect himself as well. Sure, it must have been bad, but he decided that that would be the best move. It was his decision. He put it all onto himself. Oh yeah, here's her hand. No, it doesn't whatsoever. To be fair, that is a very reasonable point. Yeah, I like this in every sense of the word. Yeah, fair enough. Isn't that interesting just how the roles have really turned? I don't think he should think anything of the sort. And he doesn't. He's taking this all totally seriously. This is his life's work. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, totally. totally. Yeah. Isn't it interesting how Morgana just totally has all of this grief and just has all of this kind of humiliation in a way, and this is her only way of really dealing with it, if you like. Yeah, just totally just belittling herself because she just doesn't know how to cope with the fact that I suppose it's firstly the fact that she's cursed the wrong person, but secondly that this would happen. And like Michelle was saying, everything that with everything that Jacopo was going through and everything who Jacopo was, it just makes all of this worse. Yeah. But to be fair, I mean, I get that Michelle's saying this, but I think it's very reasonable that he did, because Morgana was just doing nothing other than cursing Michelle. And let's be honest, making Michelle try to curse somebody and making him stoop down to her level. But what is interesting is she was always trying to reach out to Michelle, because I think she realised all of these things that Michelle is just realising, and she actually tried to reach out to somebody who is surprisingly similar. God, isn't it awful that you can actually describe her like this? It just really adds to the very supernatural and unusual nature of all of this. Yeah, that's the weird thing. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough, yeah. And I think this actually really nicely ties into what I was saying about reaching out. That's interesting. Fair enough. I mean, I suppose Gazelle has given Michelle mental torture, and Michelle has been prevented so much from being able to reunite with Gazelle just because of how much Morgana has wanted to terrorize everything from her insane amounts of hatred. But ultimately, Michelle now is kind of seeing that they are very, very similar people. It's just how they take out their anger and everything that has resulted from their really bad experiences. That's what makes them differ, and that's kind of what Michelle was understanding, because I suppose before he was not really understanding Morgana and didn't want to. Of course he didn't want to, but the more this story has progressed, the more we've then been able to understand her. God. What the fuck? That was the last thing I was expecting. Oh my god, that's interesting. This feels wrong. Yeah, totally, yeah. I never expected this. this. I really didn't. I mean, obviously hair colours are different, but I do actually see what Michelle is saying. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So I suppose it's... No, I just really wonder... So I suppose Morgana was never meant to be like this, even though this is how she ended. Well, sorry, how her physical life ended. She was never meant to be like this in the soul, because obviously the white-haired girl had branched off and created a new soul. So I suppose when that discontinuity is resolved, I suppose she can return to being Morgana, rather than being Morgana as a whole, rather than being just the side of her hatred. And I suppose it's interesting that you just make Morgana the most disgusting, revolting, and in general off-putting person physically and in terms of how she looks, when she is kind of like the embodiment of pain. But now she looks like a totally normal person, just because everything has been returned to normal. It's weird. How does she mean antithesis? Just like the opposite of what you would have wanted to be made? Yeah, just direct opposite. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, let's be honest, it is interesting when somebody is treated really, really badly and they have horrors in their life happen. Just all of the kind aspects, they just become unnecessary because they've got such an awful situation that they need to cope with. And coping with that situation requires no kindness. Yeah. isn't that interesting? It's kind of that theory that I've had. Fair enough. She understands, but can she really forgive them for what they have done? It's gone on for nearly 1,000, actually maybe over 1,000 years. This just feels a little bit good to be true. If I'm going to be honest, I'm sorry, but who the fuck would ever get the opportunity to hold a skeleton hand of somebody, well, who can firstly control said skeleton hand, and secondly, that is completely authentic, I'd assume? I mean, who would not take this opportunity just for the genuine curiosity? Yeah, hold her hand, man. I would. Yeah, but that's interesting. Yeah. But what's interesting about this is you just see even Morgana having a real change of heart, just her not really being able to control that, the guilt. Well, not the guilt, but just the not have the courage to face them, despite what she has done. Yeah, Michelle was one of the only... No, sorry, Michelle is... No, I mean, Gazelle would accept Morgana, of course. But, yeah, Michelle was one of the only people who would accept Morgana. Yeah. God, it feels weird going out of the observation tower now. Yeah, and the really, really dark stained glass portrait. Yeah, that's so reassuring. That's hilarious. True. That is actually reassuring now. Revolution. Oh well. Interesting little chapter name there, Revolution. I really do wonder what that's going to be about. But yeah, we'll read that tomorrow. That was really cool, the realisation that the white-haired girl was actually Morgana, and that was a really, really nice little addition to Morgana's character, and just in general, unfortunately, in addition to the depth of suffering that she has had to experience as a result of being in the mansion and just totally locked up in the observation tower. Yeah, it was nice that, and it was also really interesting just to see more of Morgana's character and to see the restoration of her soul. And it's odd to think about the fact that she's kind of having to hear the souls that she has cursed so much and ruined lifetimes for out. And it's going to be quite interesting to see what is going to happen there. And I just wonder how these people may have changed as a result of everything that Michelle has done. Or maybe they won't have changed, who knows? Because obviously the world Michelle had was kind of an illusionary world in the world of the dead. Did it actually change anything apart from what Morgana and the white-haired girl understood? It was interesting that the white-haired girl had the same power of viewing the well, what Michelle was doing as Morgana, by the way. Can I just mention that? But yeah, anyway, we'll pick this up tomorrow, and we will see the conversations that Morgana is going to be able to have. And yeah, we'll see if we can learn some more about just about everything in general, really. And I'm also curious. I really do wonder what these things in the extra are. I wonder if they're stories or maybe CGs and music. Maybe they only unlock once the game has finished. I don't know. I'm going to be quite excited to see what they are. Anyway, see you guys tomorrow.